Please welcome Ben Miles.
Thanks so much. Cheers.
That one's yours, all right?
Okay, perfect. So are you using the clicker, or are you just clicking around
I was
here?
clicking around, but you can use the clicker.
Okay, let's just see how the clicker works.
Test it.
Oh, that's not mine yet. I need to
There we go.
jump on. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming and taking time out of your super busy days. I know how hard it is to actually find time, but it's really nice to have you all here today. Today I'm going to be talking about turning fantasy into reality. I think I got really lucky. Fantasy is such an exciting subject to be talking about, and something that's really close to my heart because I just love everything to do with fantasy. So I'm going to try and steal all the illustrations from down there at the end. I'm also a really big fan of Creative Mornings and creativity in general in Australia. I think that the more we can get together like this, the more venues and spaces and places where people can come together, the better it is for Australia and the better it is for our industry. And I do feel like this is, hopefully we can find somebody to carry on and fly the flag for Flynn as he moves forward. So as much as it's a great day, it's also a bit of a grey day because it's Flynn's last creative morning. And I think it's without people like Flynn, this sort of stuff doesn't happen. These things don't happen if you don't have the people on top of their day jobs, on top of what they do, to put that extra yard in, to push it, to bring people together. So I think he deserves another round of applause just to say amazing. So I'm going to start off with just giving a little bit of background about me and a little bit of background about Interbrand, just in case people aren't familiar with me or Interbrand. So obviously I'm originally from London. I have been in Sydney now for about 5 years. When I was in London, I worked at lots of different big agencies. The first place I worked was a place called Fitch, which was environmental, experience and design. And it was a fusion of all those things coming together that really helped me see the ability and the power that design can have to make experiences and change people's perception. I went freelance after that for a couple of years, and that was invaluable. It was so good to suddenly realize how little I actually thought I knew, to suddenly realize that every new place I went to, I had no idea how anything worked, and it starts to get you thinking and changing and realize you don't know as much as sometimes you think you do. Then I took the big trip, came to Sydney, and again, I feel like Sydney is the most exciting place in the world right now. Like, I really love it. I think there's so many cool places, but Sydney just feels like stuff's starting to happen. I feel like there's a real energy here. It's got something going. And again, all of us in this room are adding to that. So that's really amazing. So as you know, I'm based at Interbrand. I've been at Interbrand for 6 years. When I originally went to Interbrand, I wasn't sure what to expect. I saw it as this big, giant corporation. But I straight away was quite amazed that there was something different happening at Interbrand. There was a different collective of people who had a different opinion on how to do things. And that inspired me from day one. And I think what a big part of that is that we see brand is more than branding. It's all those things. It's how you experience, interact and engage with it. It's an ecosystem that preempts and understands your feelings. It knows how to give you value beyond an identity. It's about actually adding value to your life. And I think since day one, that's been at the core of what we're all about. And it's only getting stronger and we're only building on top of that. And I think it's things like that that have allowed us to work on some really exciting projects, from big to small. It doesn't matter whether it's a big corporation, it's an arts and crafts organization, we put the same amount of energy into whatever we do. And I think we feel incredibly lucky to have had the opportunity to work on some of these projects. Again, I think for Interbrand to have that opportunity is a massive thing. So I'm going to play you a quick video that summarizes some of these projects. Again, we believe brands should move. Just like people, they need life, they need energy. So here's just a really quick snapshot of some of those brands in action. So just a very quick snapshot of what we've been up to. I think that what I wanted to make here is that we have 2 studios in Australia. We have one in Melbourne and one in Sydney, but we operate with one door policy. So we absolutely interchange ideas, we cross-collaborate, and we work on lots of projects together. So everything you ever see coming out of Interbrand is coming out of those 2 studios combined. We've been on a big kind of change over the last couple of years, we've really actually started to look at what it is we are and what we stand for and who we are and where we're going. And a huge part of that was in 2014, we were a really, really top-heavy business where predominantly we had lots and lots of senior people. And it was incredible. The firepower was amazing. But what we realized is it really didn't give a huge amount of opportunity to the next generation of Australians because there wasn't a huge amount of roles to fill because couldn't really afford it, to be quite honest, because of all these top people. So what we've done over the last couple of years is really started to try and change that and become more of an A-shaped business where we have less seniors at the top and much more juniors and interns at the bottom. And it's been fascinating to see the change of culture, to see people bind together with new ways of looking at the world. It hasn't come without challenges, but it's been such an amazing opportunity for us to really start to try and invest in that next generation of Australia. The next couple of slides shows a little bit of some of those new people, the space that we create, because every project we ever work on is the sum of many different people. It's never just one individual. It's never just the creative director who is in complete control of a project. It's absolutely everybody. And we really try and create those spaces that allows anybody to have an idea. It can come from the cleaner, it can come from the CEO, it can come from whoever's got an idea, whoever wants to solve a problem, and that's the sort of spaces we should be creating. The next shot is about the types of people we've hired quite recently. These are our junior designers at Interbrand, and each one of them has been hired not necessarily because of their creative skills. They're incredible designers, but it's more than that. It's about who they are, it's about what they offer, it's about the fact that they look at the world differently. They're multi-dimensional. We've got Beck, who's absolutely passionate about music, and that feeling of music comes out in her work. We've got Henry. When he first started, he was passionate about film, and he's already now directed 2 films at Interbrand. And then Jess was around social good, really passionate about social good, and she's just finished working on World Vision. So all those extra skill sets that people possess, the way of unleashing them is when you really start to create those meaningful differences. And that's because we believe in generalists, and I'm sure every single one of us in this room has so many different things to us. Like the collective power in this room is insane right now. We could go and probably do anything. I'm sure we'd have a few debates along the way, but it would be amazing because it's about generalists. It's about designers, writers, illustrators, motion designers, communicators, collaborators, all coming together to solve problems. And that's fundamental to what we believe in, is solving problems. I don't really see myself as a designer. I see myself as a problem solver. It's like, let's find a problem and let's try and solve it using whatever powers we need to do, because it's about effective design. I think effective design is so important. I believe in awards. I think awards are great, but they should never, ever be something that drives the solution. It should be a byproduct of doing great work that makes people and companies better. So effective design is what we strive to do because hopefully we'll leave a business better and give them something great. So that is a little bit about us and about Interbrand. I could probably talk a day, so I need to pause on that one and get back to why we're here today, about fantasy. So what is fantasy? It's an incredibly lofty thing. But for me, it's the ability to use the imagination to see the world differently. It has been, since day one. We've been creating fictitious worlds around us and telling stories. But right now, the future is ambiguous. What was once just a fantasy is becoming a reality. It's incredibly scary and amazing how quickly technology is moving. If we go back 10 or 20 years ago, these were things of dreams. In Star Trek and in Back to the Future and Knight Rider, there were food replicators that was the forefront of fantasticalness. There was self-lacing shoes, which seemed unimaginable. And there was self-driving cars that was absolutely ridiculous. But all that is becoming a reality right now. And this is not new to any of you guys, but I just think it's good to look back at what people were seeing as a fantasy. We've got Soylent, which is Silicon Valley's answer to never having to eat lunch again, and sipping on a bottle full of nutrients that means you're never going to have to eat. It's really scary, but kind of exciting. I don't know where I stand on it. I think it's a bit weird, but it obviously works for some people. Then you've got Nike, who 20 years ago created Back to the Future lace-up trainers. And for the anniversary, they were like, well, let's make it happen. We're the most innovative sports brand in the world. We're going to make it happen. And they've now created self-lacing shoes that wrap around the sports person to really enhance that. Whatever they're doing, whatever they're playing, how they're doing it, it's just constantly evolving around the sports star. Then there's Uber. I don't need to tell you about Uber, but again, self-driving cars are becoming a reality. Not quite yet, but the absolute dedication to making it happen within the next few years Uber again is going to eradicate taxi drivers and replace them with robots, which is scary, but again, pretty exciting. So the deeper I started to unpick all of this, I went off on warrens of anxiety at times. And this was one of them, was around a statistic by PwC that 47% of jobs in America and Australia are likely to be replaced by robots. That is pretty mental. I mean, it's starting to happen right now. In all honesty, the future scares the shit out of me. I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 5 years, 10 years, and I definitely don't know what I'm going to be doing in 15 years because everything's changing. I'm sure all of you have sat there going, where do we go? What do we need to do? How do I stay on top of this? What course should I be doing? It's overwhelming, but I think the mere fact that you're questioning that means that you'll be ahead of the curve in the future because you're constantly trying to thrive and adapt. And I came across this quote by Matthew Manus that said, so how do we, as designers, understand the future of markets and the future of business design? And I thought he was going to come up with something really lofty and amazing that would give me an insight. But he came up with this: we make it up. And again, I just thought, what a beautiful way of talking about it, that we as humans just make things up and see what happens. You know, automation, computers can't necessarily do that. We can just make it up and see what happens. Something evolves into something else, which is pretty incredible. Because we can't predict how the future is going to change. We have no idea what's going to happen. Stuff like this, again, once upon a time, Skype was amazing. The next thing, we're going to be in a room, I'm going to be able to speak to my mum in the same room, interacting, having coffee. And the reason we can do that is because of imagination. And imagination is absolutely linked to fantasy. Imagination has never been more important because it's the antithesis of automation. Automation is incredible, but the imagination is what we are. That's what gets us out of bed in the morning. So we need to keep creating those spaces, just like here, to really embrace creativity and imagination to allow us to continue to flourish and potentially get back to the days where we don't even have to work anymore. We can go back to being like Greek philosophers and plodding around all day long talking about incredible things we'd like to do. So it could be scary for some people, could be really exciting for other people. Kind of depends how much purpose you need in your life. I'm quite looking forward to just chilling out and doing some of this, which could be pretty cool. And again, the way that's going to be possible is by leaving all the hard work to these guys, because they're just going to get more and more advanced, more and more crazy, and do everything for us. So hopefully we can work out a middle ground, and we can all hang out together and live in harmony and do some cool shit together. So, based on that, who is making the future right now? So I kind of wanted to just pull apart a few brands and people and places that I think are doing some really incredible stuff. And there's millions. I didn't really know where to start, but I found something quite fascinating about these guys, because they are providing the tools for people to think creatively. They're pushing the boundaries. They're reinventing what it means to be creative, what it means to be the future. And one of them who I think is leading the charge is Elon Musk. And I'm sure everyone's familiar with Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla. But what's incredible about what he's been doing now, his whole life has been around creating a fantasy. His whole empire is to try and fund him going to Mars. That's fantastical. But he doesn't want to stop there. He's disillusioned with the current state of education. So he wants to create his own schools, a place where he encourages people to follow their curiosity, to create personalized learning. Personalized learning is not necessarily something new. We've always had the ability to do it, but if we could actually start to create that as part of the curriculum, it could become a very powerful tool to allow people to really go deep into things that they're interested with. And for a lot of people, school is boring. So let's ignite people. Ad Astra means to the stars. And again, what a fantastic premise for a school. And hopefully it's super top secret at the moment. You can't even see anything about it. But hopefully it starts to spill out into mainstream education. The next one is Spotify. So I don't need to tell anybody about it. I'm sure every single person in this room has got Spotify on their phone. I've been living with Spotify since it was released, and I absolutely love it. I think it's amazing. We talk about a brand is more than how it looks. It's about the value you add to people's lives. It's about what you do, not what you say. And Spotify is an engineering company at its heart. It's a very, very rational business. It's about technology, about incredible seamless technology. They have incredible algorithms, amazing user experience, wonderful interface, and a brand that brings that all to life, that adds the color, adds the emotion. But it's all those notes that come together to make it such an incredible, ever-advancing thing that listens to the people around it to continuously add improvements. Their creative director, Tobias Schneider, he really believes in side projects. Stupid, fantastical side projects. The weirder the better, because he believes that allows you to go into different places, different dimensions, and see what becomes possible. And because of those side projects, a lot of the latest advancements around Spotify are based on all these crazy ideas. So we've got playlists that we all use that understand us, that constantly give us new music, because again, they've thought out this equal parts logic and magic to create and connect to us. And then yesterday Spotify released this latest partnership with Headspace, because they realized that music is all about focus, meditation, mindfulness. So what a brilliant partnership to have a subscription fee that combines the two together to help continue to advance people through music and feeling and mindfulness. And I'm sure next week something even more amazing will come out. The next slide is Magic Leap. I'm sure, again, a lot of you guys are familiar with these guys. Anybody that isn't, get online, check them out because they're incredible. This, I'm going to read out to you. If you're applying for a job, this is how they say who they are, what they are. It's pretty amazing. Magic Leap is an eclectic group of visionaries, rocket scientists, wizards, and gurus from fields of film, robotics, visualization, software, commuting, and user experience. We are growing quickly, and this is the time to get on board and play a role in shaping the way people will be interacting with the world of tomorrow. Magic Leap team. What an exciting place to work. I want a job there. I want to be a wizard. I don't think that's possible, but I want to be there. This is how Wired magazine described them, the company everybody's talking about, but nobody quite understands. And this is why, because of the power of augmented reality. And you can go and check it out more online. It's incredible. It's augmented reality. It's not virtual reality. It's stuff that's popping up around us. It'll be in the room. It could be me just being here as a virtual version of me. It's insane. They are being backed by billions and billions of dollars because people are so excited about the future possibilities of what they're doing. And again, the reason why I think this is happening is because people are pairing new combinations together like a science experiment. It's incredible. We're just popping people together that were never necessarily supposed to be together before. Coders, creatives, artists, musicians, all coming together to create absolutely magical, fantastical things. It's that combination of left brain and right brain. Once upon a time, you were either a left brain thinker or a right brain thinker. That doesn't really add up anymore. We're just a combination of everything, because if I'm a left brain, I'll go hang out with the right brain, and all of a sudden something new and something exciting will start to happen. So the more we start to hang out with different people and connect with different industries, the more we're going to continue to advance. So again, that's just a little bit. Again, I could go on for hours around that, but I'm just going to pause and get back to reality a little bit. So what I'm going to talk about now is how at Interbrand we've approached a few creative projects. We've used fantastical thinking, we've used problem solving, we've sweated, we've shed tears, we've had everything, but that is what creates a really great solution. So the first project I wanted to talk about is Australian Design Centre. It actually embodies a lot of what we've just talked about. It embodies a lot of providing those spaces for creative people from all ages to make a difference. Like most companies, when they first come to approach us, there's something that needs fixing, there's something that's wrong. So it's part of our role as creatives, as problem solvers, as designers, to try and figure out what that problem is. When we worked with the Australian Design Centre and we spent a lot of time immersing ourselves in their business, meeting their people, we realised that there were three things that were really kind of lacking. They had limited resources, they didn't have a huge amount of money, and that's only getting tighter because the government are axing where they spend their money. They're not necessarily investing in creativity, and that's something that needs to change. There's a lack of clear focus at the Australian Design Centre. They had so many different things they were trying to do that it almost became overwhelming. And there was confusion about who they were and what they stood for. and they needed to have a crystal clear clarity because there was so much great stuff happening. So again, our role was to help them find that purpose. So the key areas that we decided to focus on after lots of immersion, stakeholder meetings, and spending time with people and trying to understand the world was that they needed to focus on craft and design. It's a world that is always going to be there. Let's not rush to forget about where we've come from, but let's really start to think about education. Let's look at exhibitions, getting this out to the wider Australia, and then the role of digital. But the thing that was binding them together, the thing that was at the forefront of what they're all about was education. It's a passion, and it's at the core of who they are, said their old CEO. And that was something that really drove us forward to make sure that this was going to be an organisation that really invested in the next generation of Australians. So as I mentioned, the two key parts that we're going to continue to look at was craft and design. Really empowering local artists, local designers, and bringing that community together through learning. And then education, empowering kids to have a space to learn, to prod, poke, and play. And we started to delve deeper into what they were all about and what they stood for and their ethos. This is their mission, their vision that we brought to life. Very, very simple. Through design, we'll equip Australians with the creative skills they'll need to build a brighter future. And that's an exciting place to start. If everything about your brand is built upon this platform, then you can think of infinitely creative things to do through education, through exhibitions, through digital, anything. But where it became a bit tricky was trying to understand the differences between the audiences. We had designers and design enthusiasts from 18 to 90. We had children from 5 to 17 who were going to be the education, were going to be the workshop. So we needed to try and find a common thread between these people. What is it that actually binds them together when they're looking at the world very differently? It's kind of simple. It was their attitude. We realized that the attitude, regardless of age, regardless of where you were, was this curiosity, was this the idea of being the playful explorer. So once we understood who we were designing for, it all started to fall into place and it all started to make sense because these people are really interested in the curiosity behind design. So we needed to create a brand that could react to that and actually bring that to life. So what we then did is, once we understood the role of the playful explorer, we just wanted to sketch and ideate and think about, well, how can we create as many cool things for this audience as possible? Some really fantastical, some really normal. But again, by pulling all these ideas apart, it really helped us figure out who we were creating for. And again, we talk a lot about it's not what we say, it's what we do. So some of these ideas really started to manifest themselves into actual realities as we started to activate the brand. We zoomed in and started to think about, well, okay, if we were going to create a fantastical tour, if we were going to invite somebody to the Australian Design Centre for a launch night, why not supply bikes at the train station with maps, their invites and maps to see incredible, inspiring things along the way? So straight away, we're activating the ethos behind our brand. We're not just going to invite people to an exhibition. We're going to challenge them to see the world differently on the way. And again, when we were starting to think about how would people pay to come into the Australian Design Centre? No, but they have to bring ideas. They have to bring ideas. You can only get in if you bring an idea. And you pop the idea in the box and something lights on top of the building. Some of this has never happened, but it's that ability to look further and think about what's possible for the brand and see where they could go and how they can activate and engage with people. This was my favourite one, but it hasn't happened. I'm still hoping it does, that when you sit on the toilet, it makes a giant fart noise, or when you open the door, it does lots of crazy stuff. But it's about, again, making people smile, connecting with them and creating a feeling. And if a brand can do that, you're going to talk about it, you're going to remember it, and you're going to go and tell your friends because your customers are your biggest advocates. The people there are going to talk about you. So the next thing for us was how do we activate an idea? So this is how we started to bring it to life.
It's possible to have a much higher quality of life with a lot less, and if both were to work together, we could find some solution.
So it's really simple, really. Very, very simple solution. It was about using building blocks because they're constantly adaptable, they can be repurposed, but putting what matters most at the center. So if it's about education, it would be about what we're trying to workshop. If it's about art, it would be the artist in residence. So constantly bringing it back to them and creating something that has infinite adaptability, that can fit just like the future. We need to be adaptable. So let's create a brand that can constantly adapt and change and fit from 2D to 3D, can come to life and actually become something that you can use, just like a lectern. This is a lectern that can adapt and put you at the center of what's important. The spaces themselves became really interesting places, but a little bit of a blank canvas to allow the people, the residents, the artists, the workshops to really take center stage, to be at the center of what's important. Again, the design itself is very simple because we go back to the beginning, funds and money is an issue, so they can't necessarily have the best design team in the world. Often we as designers try to create things that are very complicated, but when they become in the real world, sometimes it's a disaster because people can't use it. But it's about creating things that are simple and that really start to hone in on what you're trying to communicate. The most important part for me was, again, getting back to that education, the workshop. So it was about design emergency. So we helped them activate the workshops around design emergency, which is to encourage kids to learn through creativity. And it was amazing to see how kids started to react and interact with this brand. And something we're working on at the moment is design emergency packs, which will get sent out to the kids in advance to help them start to explore design, to start thinking about solving problems, because these are the future leaders. We can't necessarily affect our teachers, our government, but we can start to have an influence on the next generation where their minds are still there to be shaped. So we want to help them by creating characters that are all about ideation. The first one is Big Mouth. His role is to bring the best, help you communicate your ideas. The second one is Sparky, who is to spark ideas. The third one is Robo, whose job is to demystify technology and help you understand how to learn about code. And the fourth one is Goggles, which is to use your imagination and look at the world differently. So these are very simple things, but little tricks to help kids start to feel more confident, more empowered. And even if they're shy, they can hide behind some of these creative ideas to help them learn. The next step is to turn this into an app that will actually be able to be downloaded and used and shared to keep developing creative thinking. And here's a little video that brings that to life. So you can see again how simple and powerful animation can start to feel and work. If you're a 7-year-old kid and someone's talking to you about design thinking, it's going to blow your mind. But if you've got a robot or a character talking to you, it's going to start to break that down and invite you in and look at the world differently. So there's big ambitions here with ADC to look at how we can really make that a reality and continue to connect with children of all different ages. The next part that we needed to focus on was exhibitions, because these go all across Australia. They go to rural Australia to connect with disadvantaged communities and really, again, spread creative thinking and show them the power. So with exhibitions, we didn't want to just create passive exhibitions. It's about creating exhibitions where you can prod, poke and play. You can connect and pull apart different things. It should be responsive, not passive. So we created this, the exhibition was about 3D printing and showing how 3D printing could activate and enhance your life and solve problems that you may have. The first thing we did was send out a big questionnaire to lots of different people using these postcards, saying to people, well, how would you use 3D printing to enhance something, whether it's to create an artificial limb or to create something that just needs fixing in your house? Again, the solutions are endless. And what might seem very normal to us, in certain parts of Australia, people might never have even heard of this, and it becomes a really exciting tool to unpick. So the spaces themselves were 3D printed and brought to life using that wireframe aesthetic to bring to life 3D objects. We created a space that was really engaging and took people on a story and a timeline of 3D printing all the way to the future. We talked about the controversial aspects of 3D printing, creating guns and more. And we made this space a really engaging place that you could listen to music, you could see 3D animations, you could see live augmented reality, and hopefully get kids to absolutely engage in the problems and the solutions of the future. And the most fun part for me was we created a giant wall where we asked all the kids from the design workshops to sit down and ideate and think creatively about how they would use the solutions to actually really enhance their life. So that was a very quick insight into Australian Design Centre. The next project I'm going to show is very, very different. We've been working on it for a year and a half. Everybody's been to an IGA. They are an independent grocers. It's not like Coles, it's not like Woolies, it's not like Aldi, where they're owned and you can flick your switch and everything changes. There's 1,400 independent grocers across Australia. The binding thing is the IGA logo. Everything else is up to them. That creates a seriously complex problem. We weren't here to say to them an identity is going to solve your problems. We were here to really, again, unpick the problems and deep dive into what it is that IGA needs to fix to become relevant. And for us, there became 3 key challenges. And again, it's about the problem, really romanticizing the problem to figure out what the solution could be. So define what IGA stands for, a massive part. How do we define that? Transform the customer experience. It doesn't matter what we do. If we don't make the customer experience better, people don't care. My mum doesn't care. She just wants to get her groceries. She wants to have a seamless experience. She wants choice. And she wants consistency when she can. And when we needed to look at unifying a network of independents, so 1,400 different independents, different business owners, to try and actually bring this to life. So as we were saying, retailer independence is IGA's biggest advantage, but it's also its current sense of undoing. This is currently how the IGA brand looks. There is 1 billion different variations of this logo. It is used and abused. My favorite one is this one. That's the solution. They should just keep that. It's amazing. But again, you can kind of see how fragmented the portfolio is, and there's 1,400 more of these. And so if that's the visual aesthetic, the internals of that are also pretty sporadic as well. There's a real mix. You could have a really incredible IGA store, but you could also have a really, really bad one. So you've probably been to one that's really bad and one that's really good. And it's because they're all owned by different people. So we had to try and think of ways around, well, how do we raise the network? How do we raise everybody? Because they don't have to do anything. We have to inspire them to want to make change. And the only way we can do that is playing to our greatest strengths. So we had to talk to all these retailers. It was a room like this where we had to speak to lots and lots of retailers and tell them why they needed to do this. But what the biggest insight for us was, this is something that Coles or Woolies or Aldi can never do. They are not an independent grocers. Every single one of these grocers is independent, and they have their own passions, their own quirks, their own ways of doing things. So if we can tap into that and actually ignite that, that's the future for IGA, to really lift them. And it really is simple. It all comes down to this. It comes down to being proudly independent and embracing what it means to be an independent retailer. The fact that you can adapt to your sales, you can adapt to your customers. You understand your customers better than anybody else. And the first thing we did is start to unpick all these different independents. We went around and met them all. And there were so many fascinating people with so many interesting stories that were trying to do things differently. You know, 50% of the network's doing incredible stuff, innovative stuff. And it's really fascinating to hear all their stories. And where we kind of landed was that it's really simple. That for IGA, we need to put the heart and soul back into grocery shopping. We need to actually get back to the basics. You know, move away from automated services, but use them when it's relevant, and really start to think about what it means to be the heart of the community. And there was 3 ways we were going to activate it: through individual character, service with soul, and be the heart of the community. So individual character is about being you. Service with soul is about saying hi, saying hello, making sure if you need your bags carried, yeah, I'll carry your bags for you. And being the heart of the community. In some of these towns, there's 3 shops. They are absolutely integral to how that town functions. So it's so important to embrace that and become the heart. So after thousands of miles and hundreds of visits and hours of chats, speaking and interviewing and chatting to all these people, we learned so much about all these different people and about what it meant to be a retailer, to what it meant to be an independent grocer. And we started to bring that life to looking at the worst of the network to the best of the network. ideating again, sketching ideas of future groceries, thinking about what they could be, thinking about customer journeys and how to enhance that, designing stores of the future and working backwards. One of the things that we did, which was really interesting, we created the playbook. If any one of you got hold of this book, you could go and set up an IGA, because we distilled everything we learned. We took from the best of the network and built a book around how to be the best store in town. So from all the insights, all the tips and tricks, we put together a book that you could take now and go and set up a shop. And it's really interesting. It's already creating a massive impact to help people become the best store in town and unify a network of networks by celebrating the voices. So we needed to empower a network to celebrate their voice. So the whole identity became a celebration of language, the rich diversity of Australia. We created 4 tones, a passionate, a warm, a knowledgeable, and a straightforward font to create this system and structure to allow independents to start to bring the brand to life. Keep it very, very simple, because these rural design will be designing the brand. So where we got to was actually coming up with the idea of creating 1,400 individual logos, which showed flexibility but consistency about the network. So we went on an absolute mission to just continuously design all these different logos that represented each of the different individuals. And it has created such an amazing feeling for the independents to feel like they're powered by a network, but they're absolutely independent. And we can do that by being 1,400 independents, 1 IGA. And this story is continuing to evolve. It's all based around signwriting and language, because signwriting is intrinsic to the beginning of independent shops. So we create this incredible styling that allows the retailers to bring themselves to life, to talk about them, to give them the ability to have their own identity, but at the same time stand for who they are and what they stand for. So it's very, very simple. It had to be simple, but it creates a platform to allow independents to be themselves, but powered by a network, which becomes really, really strong to them. So I've got 5 minutes left. I do have a video. I'm going to play this IGA video just to give you a sense of how that came to life, and then I might skip a section and wrap it up at the end.
We're making IGA the best store in town by celebrating the voices of our network. 1,400 proud entrepreneurial independents, each with their own personalities, passions and stories to tell. We've been all over the country, from Port Kennedy to Penola, Broken Hill to Bly, talking to our customers and learning about many of the great things we're doing. And what it's reinforced is if we play to our strengths, we will win on our own terms. We'll create a different kind of supermarket experience for our customers. One that mixes the charm of a local store with the competitive prices of a national one. And that is how every IGA will become the best store in town. So how will we do it? By focusing on 3 key ingredients that make us, us. The first is individual character. I mean, think about it. No 2 of our team members or neighbourhoods are the same. So, why would 2 of our stores be? By celebrating our personalities, cultures and stories, customising for our catchment and being famous for something we're passionate about, we'll make grocery shopping that much more enjoyable and inspiring. The second ingredient is service with soul. We want everyone to feel welcome at IGA. So to show our customers that they are, we'll do the thinking for them and tailor our stores to suit the way they shop. We'll put a huge focus on listening and responding to customers' feedback and creating the specialist service that they want. And of course, we're always up for a chat, whether that's behind the counter or at their front door. And finally, we're all about being at the heart of the community by partnering with local businesses, suppliers and farmers and getting involved in neighbourhood initiatives and charities. We can support the very people that support us, enabling our communities to thrive. With these ingredients, we can make people's days in all sorts of ways. From first impressions, to see you soons, secret recipes, to everyday great value, and with 1,400 unique tailored offerings, we're perfectly placed to thrive as a network and as independents. Together, we're putting the heart and soul back into grocery shopping for Australia.
Cool. So I am running out of time. So what I might do, I was going to show you another section around the idents that we did for Sky. You've potentially seen them. So what I might do is skip, because how much longer have we got left? You're pretty close to the bone. So I'm going to do a couple of wrap-ups. So really, let me just click through this. What the futurist is saying. I'll end on one quote from a futurist, and then we can wrap it up. This is futurist Greg Madison. This is how he sums up the future. I think it sounds amazing, and I hope it happens. In the city, it will be up to you to walk on sparkling sand or on a flower bed that blossoms in as you walk, to be guided by a cloud of fireflies, to see snow slowly fall in reverse mode, or be surrounded by a musical symphony that adapts to where you are. We would change our personal reality as we change TV channels. Incredible. Let's hope, from a fantastical perspective, this sort of stuff happens. It's very, very cool. I'm just going to click on to the last slide and say, the future needs you. It needs creative thinkers. We must continue to be imaginative and push the boundaries of what it means to be creative. Thank you so much, everybody.